Good morning and welcome to It's Tea Time with Tony Westford and myself, Neville Gaunt. And it's the last event of the year, Tony. How do you feel about that?
Uh, Excited actually. Excited one because I get Christmas Day and Boxing Day off, which is great. So that's always a good time and a good sign. Uh, I'm ready for the rest. I think it's been a very interesting year for everybody. I think there's an awful lot of descriptive words being thrown at what's happened to everybody this year, really, wherever you are on the planet. And yeah, it should be a nice time to reflect and look at what everybody's achieved. Really, we're going to be talking about golf in a little while, but I think an awful lot of people have realised that and especially over the last few days, that they can be flexible, they can be adaptable, they can deal with things in a very different way, very quickly, purely and simply because you have to. The circumstances for many people have changed dramatically very quickly, as no more important than what just happened over the weekend with in your part of the world down around London and the southeast being thrown into this tier 4, and people realizing that things they did think they were going to be allowed to do, they're no longer being allowed to do. And it looks like it's from listening to the news this morning, it very much looks like that it's going to be spreading up the country as well. So I think it's a realization that things are exactly what they are, and we need to deal with them as we face them and as they happen. And if they're that big that we can't actually change them, then we've got to find a way to deal with it. And mindset and attitude and behaviors are going to play a massive part in how you are going to move forwards, how you're going to maintain your own sanity to remain happy and focused. I think that one of the key things for me when I've been on my journey of kind of personal development over the last 20 years was when I went to see Tony Robbins at Excel, which was fantastic. He says, get angry, get sad. Don't just live there though. You know, do it for a moment
Exactly.
and then move
Exactly.
on. It's
Exactly.
it's having that ability. We all, you and I, come across as being, very positive when we film It's Tea Time, and when we're on stage doing the golf shows and things like that. We're not like that all the time.
No, we're rude
Things things
people. We get
things happen.
angry.
Things happen.
We get
You know,
angry.
and I can
We
imagine
smile.
what.
We wear
Yeah,
silly Santa hats.
yeah, and I can only imagine what your weekend has been like in your part of the world, with all of a sudden the plans you would have had over Christmas, and all of a sudden, in one foul swoop on Saturday afternoon between 4 and 5 o'clock, it all changes. And
Yeah, it certainly
it,
did.
it is what it is, and it is one Christmas though. It is only one Christmas, and fingers crossed, and with everything moving as it is with vaccines coming online, let's hope by the middle of next year that we're approaching something a little bit more like normality.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and it's almost bringing the facts of life is, if we're just celebrating for one day, we're missing the point.
Mm,
So, Christmas is that magical time. And it's for me, it's 365, or for this year,
yeah,
it's 366.
absolutely.
It's a
Yeah.
leap year, if anyone hadn't noticed. We had an extra year of COVID. Thank you very much, Mr. COVID. But anyway, we asked our customers to take control of this session. And sure enough, I don't know about you, Tony, but it was a bit like Santa's Grotto. I was inundated with dear Santa letters about
Yeah.
the golf game, and how it's affecting people's businesses. And I'd just like to thank one person who doesn't want to be mentioned. In fact, nearly everybody has said I don't want to be mentioned. Um, don't know why, but that's just a feature of their life. They don't want to be pushed into the limelight. One person said, "Thank you for enlightening," and this is to you, Tony, by the way. Thank you for enlightening my view of the putting green,
Okay.
because this person, and there were several of you out there that said exactly the same thing, they never realized actually the putting green was just to gauge the speed of the greens. So the practice surface wasn't to go out there and putt it as many times and take that onto the golf course. It was actually to get the speed of the greens. And now we we may actually be confrontational here between the golfing population and the golf coaching population out there. That's just tough, because we're going to be challenging. We just challenge things. If your coach says it's about taking putting on the putting green, then that's fine. In our view, it's all about getting the speed of the greens. Because for a simple reason is that putting practice area is a practice area. It doesn't resemble any of the greens down there, because if you notice, all these practice areas are perfectly level. They cut a piece of turf away and they replace it with a very, very flat piece of turf and a few holes that they change from time to time. That doesn't resemble any green. I don't think I've played any green that's been perfectly level, but there you go. So that's one thing. Another thing is we've been inundated really with three, and we broke it down into three topics. And the topics are equipment, manufacturers, and MindFit Golf. Why does MindFit Golf get the results it gets? Why is it so special? We're going to do that last. We're going to focus firstly on equipment. You and I, Tony, have seen equipment change annually, triangularly, new equipment come in, old fads go out. Trackers are now the name of the game. You know, you can take a tracker with you wherever you are on the golf course, but you can't use it in competitions. Let's just talk about equipment. How much does equipment change a game?
Great question. I mean, all the topics are great. I think the interesting point for me, in terms of having been in the industry now for, I turned pro back in 1985, and the choices when I first started to learn to play golf were, you used what, as all golfers will know, bladed golf clubs. There was no such thing as game improvement golf clubs. They were just golf clubs which had a very, very small sweet spot, and that's what you learned to play with. You had woods, as they're all made of metal now, but you had woods at that point in time,
Woods, yeah,
with
I remember them.
with very small sweet spots. So the feedback you got from the golf club was instant. A poor shot was a poor shot. You knew it was mishit. Now, as in attracting more people to the game, and as golf club designs have changed, then people say, well, they've become easier to use. But I started out on, before I met you, on wanting to understand if equipment's improving, and that's absolutely fine, then why aren't golfers improving? If the golf ball is traveling further, and it was traveling further 20 years ago than it was 20 years before that, and it's traveling further now 20 years on from when I first started looking, yet the average handicap isn't really improving. Golfers aren't really getting any better. The average handicap is still north of 18. You know, it's somewhere in depending on where you look and what golf club or golf course it might be, you know, it's certainly north of 18 and in the low 20s. Well, if that's the case, yet equipment's better, why aren't golfers improving? And for me, it really comes down to one thing. It comes down to the fact that you can't sell somebody something and make them better just because it's different. You know, if you put the average Joe who just drives to work every day in a Formula One car, in Lewis Hamilton's Formula One car, who is now BBC Sports Personality of the Year, he's not going to go round Silverstone at the same speed that Lewis Hamilton goes round.
No.
because
No.
there's a little bit more to it than just having that great equipment. There are other skills, you know, that are involved. I think that the key thing as you develop, and what certainly one interesting thing is, you know, golfers say, "Oh, I've just bought this new driver, and it's fantastic. I've hit it on the range, and it goes absolutely fantastic." And I'd say probably 95% of cases, it does go fantastic straight away, as long as the shaft is a pretty close match, and they like the look of it. They're probably going to hit it better straight away. But the big reason why they're going to hit it better straight away is because it looks different to their old driver. And as they've used their old driver and they've gathered evidence, and golfers are great evidence gatherers, by the way, you know, you golfers out there, you fantastic at gathering evidence to prove that you think you cannot do it. So you've gathered all of this evidence that with this old driver, I'm not very good. So therefore, if I buy a new driver, and whatever company's brought out this new driver, then I will hit it better. And I guarantee that you will hit it better straight away, because our minds are curious. They like things that are different. And when you look down at that club head and it looks a bit different, your eyes send this information into your brain and you go, "Oh, never seen this before." So it does things a little bit differently. And at that point in time, because it's new, you haven't gathered all of that evidence to prove that you can't do it until you go out on the golf course. And then the experience you have with things that have happened over the previous days, weeks, and months all floods back into your head, and you realize that the new driver isn't really that much different to your old driver, you know. And unfortunately, yeah, that's the reality. You know, I know when I was competing years and years ago, if ever I was struggling with my putting, and I had I wouldn't say a vast collection of putters, but I did have several putters. And I'd go to the practice putting green and I'd take all of my different putters and I'd take the one I've been using and I'd mess around with different puts, different putters, different grips, different stances, all those kinds of things. And eventually you'd break up the pattern of what you were doing. And then I'd end up putting the putter I had been using that I hadn't been putting well with, putting that back in the golf bag because it was my favorite putter. So I ended back right where I was started. But what I was doing at the time, which I didn't realize, was I was breaking the pattern in my head of looking down at something the same all the time. So by doing something different, I created this curiosity in my brain and kind of broke the hypnosis, snapped me out of the trance I'd been getting into whilst I was looking down at this putter, not consciously telling myself that I can't put, but just memory playing over and over again what was going on in the space between my ears. And I missed again. You know, just the thing we've been talking about over the last few weeks. Oh yeah, I did that again. You know, oh look, I'm feeling nervous now. I've left myself that length of putt again. All right, okay, why is this going to be different to the previous one? So it's very much understanding that equipment will make a difference initially, but ultimately your brain will get back to what it considers to be more normal, which means you'll probably end up doing the same or something similar to what you were doing before. You'll just have some new equipment with you. Just to counter that, though, as you do improve, getting equipment fitted in the right way, regardless of manufacturer, regardless of cost, will make a massive difference. You know, we've talked on stage about, you know, well, if you're going to a party, a wedding, and you've got a chance to go and buy a suit from two places, do you go to Burton's and buy something off the peg, or do you go down Savile Row and have something fitted just for you? Now, one's going to cost, you can get a suit in Burton's for less than 100 quid as long as it stays open and going forwards. Savile Row is going to probably cost you north of 400, 500, 600 quid. I don't know. Never been on Savile Row. Luckily enough, I can shop in Burton's because of the shape I am. But there you go. That's another story. but let's think about how you're going to feel walking into that wedding. Something that's been tailor-made just for you, or something that's off the shelf. You know what? You're going to look far better in something that's been tailor-made just for you. And golfers, if there's one thing I would stress in terms of being fitted for equipment, is liking the look of a club is great. But the club with the right shafting, that is at the right weight, regardless of what it looks like, you will be able to hit well, because that shaft and that weight will match you. And if you're going to do anything, forget about the height that might be coming from whatever angle. Make sure you get a club which has the right shaft for you, and you will improve your golf. Full stop. Dead simple.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important message. We've covered a huge amount of topics there, but like anything else, it is about the feel-good factor. I'm just as mad as anyone else with something new. I'm curious with it. I want to play with it. I want to see what it can do. It's not just golf; it's anything. Whether it's a toy, a game, a new Netflix program that I want to see. We get involved with it when it's brand new, and then we slip back into our old ways. For everyone listening here, that is a fact. That's always going to happen. So this is why our last subject today is about changing your own ways permanently, okay? Because that's what we need to be doing. Then it doesn't matter what club you've got in your hand. You're curious from day one. And the other thing, of course, is it's the same in business. You get something new, you get something that's slightly different, and you bash the living daylights out of it, and you get a lot of benefit from it. And then you're going to slip back into your old ways again. And then you're going to start blaming whatever that was. Now, this could be a new person, a new sales manager, a new department you've set up, a new way of doing things. And all of a sudden it works okay for a while, and then it just slips back into deja vu stuff. We've seen this all before. And I think the thing about that is you didn't have the right attitude to start with when you first purchased it. So that's the last part of today. So great advice. And the last thing is get clubs that fit you. Don't just necessarily buy off the peg. It will make you feel great, frankly. We all like these huge plate drivers that are out there these days, and we go on the driving range and we bash it as far as we can. But the game of golf is about putting a ball in as few shots as possible into a hole. There's more to the game than just feeling good bashing some ball off the driving range. The next thing, Tony, manufacturers. Now, we are going to be contentious on here because manufacturers are consistently bringing out new products, sometimes twice a year, but certainly every single year. And the golf industry is no different from anything else. Any fisherman out there, lots of golfers are fishermen and vice versa. The tackle tarts are there. There's new bait boats that are out every year that someone's got to have the new bait boat. Did it do anything different from the previous one? It might have got there faster. We're talking about fishing here. Fishing is supposed to be a relaxing sport. Do I want to go 150 mile an hour to this 20 foot away because that's where I'm casting? Do I want to get there quicker? The point is golf, are manufacturers making golfers the equivalent of tackle tarts?
I think, unfortunately, it's gone that way. Definitely, there are still companies who will work on maybe an 18 months to 2 year product range. So a set of clubs will stay in a range for that length of time. At the same time, there are companies who will change something every 6 months. So the golfer buys the all singing, all dancing And then 6 months later, his all singing, all dancing is out of date, and there's a new improved version come out. And for me, you know, they talk about the ball going further and being able to hit the ball longer or hit the ball straighter. If you put this equipment in the hands of the best players in the world, they will get the maximum out of that equipment. You know, we talked about Lewis Hamilton a moment ago. You know, flip it around and put Lewis Hamilton in a Ford Focus going round Silverstone. He's going to go round Silverstone faster in the Ford Focus than the average driver who drives a Ford Focus on a regular basis, because of his driving skills. And the same thing applies to the golfer. You know, Dustin Johnson, world number one. You know, give him a frying pan on the end of a stick and he's probably going to hit it further than anybody could potentially, and straighter than a lot of people could potentially hit the driver.
And a lot of these golfers do those golf shots, don't they? They do those trick shots just to get the crowd going.
Absolutely, you know, and there have been the odd driver over the years that's come out sounding like somebody's hit it with a frying pan, by the way. So, you know, the noise has been resounding across the golf course, and you know that particular person is out playing golf. And I think that the key thing for me is, yes, it may make a difference if they're putting it on, and we've got to understand that when these companies are testing this equipment, they're testing it with a robot. That an engineer is just pressing the green go button, and the robot doesn't know anything else. The robot only knows how to move, and the engineers are setting up the parameters at that particular moment in time and controlling all of the factors. So in the perfect world, yes, this club might go further. We're not in a perfect world. We opened the show talking about what's happened in the world this year. You know, we're talking about, you know, golfers standing on the first tee, the 18th tee, with a club not being perfect, thinking that if they're making the same swing at the end of the round that they made at the beginning of the round. Well, there's no guarantee you're making exactly the same swing all the time. And much research coming out of the States these days is basically suggesting that every golf swing you make is some form of compensation on some previous golf swing. So your brain isn't even firing exactly the same pattern every single time. As long as it's close to what you were doing before, it will work something out for you, and you'll hit this shot nicely down the middle of the fairway, and you're conned into thinking, I'm now becoming consistent. Well, actually, no, that isn't how it works. So what we've got to realize is, yes, the best golfer in the world will probably hit it further and will hit it a little bit straighter. That's why they're the best golfer in the world. For the average golfer, the number of times I've had people come to me, I want to be fitted for a set of golf clubs. So I spend at least 25 to 30 minutes with them, understanding why they want to be fitted for these golf clubs, whatever brand they're thinking of, or they might not have been specific on what brand. And we're going to try some clubs out to see what fits within their budget, within how much they're going to play golf. And a number of times I've just said to somebody, right at this moment in time, a set of golf clubs isn't really going to make that much difference. Let's explain what's happening with this golf swing, though, and say, let's have 2 or 3 golf coaching sessions. Let's get you understanding what you need to do, and then we'll revisit what you want to do with golf clubs. Now, in the majority of cases, they do have those few lessons, they do improve, and then they do buy golf clubs. Well, that's down to more the fact that, one, they've seen they can improve, and they're trusting themselves in the fact, you know what, I'm now going to be making the right kind of investment based on what I'm doing right here, right now. And for me, that's important. You could give somebody who's never played the game before a golf club that costs, if a golf club, you can buy a golf club, you certainly buy a golf club for a tenner on in a car boot sale. So if you go and buy the all singing and all dancing from whatever manufacturer you want, and something from a car boot sale, and they're both 7-irons, somebody who's never played the game before isn't going to know that much difference. One's going to be shinier, but there's still going to be lots of randomness and chaos in terms of when they're swinging the club and hitting the golf ball. It's not until they improve that they'll start to see the benefits of using a different type of golf club. And I think that, for me, I suppose a sad thing, I suppose one sad way of looking at it is the hype has been put on, buy this, use this, you'll be better. The changes we know, and we've been talking about throughout this series of programs, we did the Masters special, we talked about exactly the same. The change has to come from inside, not from outside. It has to come because you want to do something different. You can't buy that different. We've got to make sure that we change our attitudes, our behaviors, our approaches to what we want to do. So yes, equipment will make a massive change if you're prepared to make the changes yourself as well. Other than that, you've just got a very expensive piece of kit and you've got the same old attitude, behavior and mindset, trying to use it and really not going anywhere.
And that's great advice. I mean, very simply, just don't fall for the hype. I mean, what will an extra 10 yards do for you anyway? It will just put pressure on your short game, frankly, as far as I'm concerned. And if you don't understand that, then you're going to need to go and listen to our short game interview that we had a couple of sessions ago. But I think the key message is, there's more manufacturers that are coming in. I mean, some manufacturers have said we're pulling out of golf in the last 2 years, mainly because the realization is a commercial one. They're not making any money out of it. So if you just get with your favorite clubs and you never deviate from that particular manufacturer, then you never know whether they're going to be around in a year's time. And then that's going to mentally affect you far more than the person with the right attitude. And now let's go into this part, because everyone keeps saying so. And they always say to me, so Neville, why is MindFit Golf so successful? I'm just going to divert to my fantastic colleague here, because he's our PGA pro. Tony's been around for many, many years. When he and I first got together, there must have been a thunderbolt over Gatwick, just outside of Gatwick, because there was a magnetism between our thought patterns, and we were just having a full English, as they say. And it was a cold full English by the time we finished it, because we were just talking so much. So Tony, over to you. In very few words, maybe with an explanation of one of the people that you've worked with over a couple of years. Okay, because we do get instantaneous results, but actually it's the consistency that we look for. Like in business, we love to win a contract, but it's consistently winning those contracts where other people are just being lucky. MindFit golfers are not lucky. They just get better every time. So Tony, over to you.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one, actually. And I mean, and when I started out looking at changing things, I did it for selfish reasons, because I wanted to get better. The result of that is I've been able to help other people get better. So it's been very important for me to make sure that anything I'm going to ask my clients or our clients to do, I want to have known that I've tried it, I've tested it, and I've proved that it's worked. And over the last probably 10 years or so, I haven't gone down too many blind alleys because of how your approach is actually working. But certainly one of the guys who sent us a question in has improved his handicap over the last 18 months to 2 years from 24 to 14. So he's lost 10 shots off his handicap in that length of time, which is great. But I go back to the first time I met him. The first time I met him, it was a cold winter's night. I'd not been at the golf club very long, and I've wandered in and said to everybody, a lot of people knew me because I'd been at the golf club many years ago, and a lot of people knew me, but my approach to coaching had changed, my approach to learning had changed. So Darren, I'm sure you won't mind me mentioning his name. Darren was one of the group. We set up some winter night sessions to get prepared for the following season. Darren hadn't been playing golf a long time, but he could hit the golf ball. Things needed to change and he wanted to get better. Okay, so we started doing some work in a group setting, and the way the group settings would have worked was I'd ask people what they wanted to get out of it, so we get a kind of a consensus for each session, and then we'd start along the lines of where we needed to go. In most cases, the T word always crops up. We know that from the first few sessions we've talked about. Our good old friend tension.
Yeah.
Yeah. The tension is directly related to the golfer thinking they've got control.
And in a group setting, it's even worse because now everyone else is looking at you. There are definitely eyes on you, you know?
Yeah. So I explained what we needed to do. And the key thing is you make sure, and this is where we're different, we make sure people are buying into what it is that you're saying. So it's important from a coaching perspective, you're explaining it in such a way that makes sense to each individual. So whether you're working with one-on-one or one-to-many, you've got to make sure it makes sense to them. Otherwise, they're just not going to do anything. So the key thing is, with all the explanations we've talked about, is as I'm the being coached, does this make sense to me? Does this sound relevant to me? And when you begin to get that buy-in as a coach, you can really begin to make progress. So we started to explain about how you should be relaxed, how you should stand. The energy you use to stand up to the golf ball is the energy you need just to stand up. So can I stand up and relax my shoulders, my arms? Can I be relaxed holding the club to the point where nobody can take it out of my hands, but I've got the freedom to move the club head around? So this was the beginning of this first session. And my mate Darren, who I've played a fair bit of golf with now, started at the beginning of the session being able to hit the golf ball. In the space of 10 minutes, having got a buy-in from everybody about how to relax, he couldn't make contact with the golf ball. That was it. He was flummoxed. He couldn't work out what was going on. And I just explained, I mean, a younger Tony, you know, from first being a coach from 1985 to probably, I don't know, 1990, at this point would have panicked. Would have gone, oh no, you know, what have I done? What have I done to this? He could hit it a few minutes ago and now he can't hit it. What the hell's going on? But it's realizing it's a step that people have to take. It's where we need to go to. And by changing their focus and getting into not feel embarrassed, which he was certainly feeling, the fact that he couldn't hit it, but get him to focus on what was happening. Not the exact why he was missing it, but more, well, where were you missing it? Where was the club relative to the golf ball? We've established, and I make sure I reinforce this all the time, so we established that what we're doing is the right thing to do at this moment in time. And that's with anything I ask any of our clients to do is, are you happy that this is what we've agreed to do? Yes. If I don't get a yes, we go over it again until we get into that yes. Okay. Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so now tell me what happened. Where was the club? Oh, I hit the ground before the ball. I missed the ball over the top. All right. So what would be different? And very, very slowly, the light comes on. It might be, you might have to start off with a dimmer switch. It's very rarely is it the light bulb comes on like you've switched a stormtrooper light on in an ABBA video from years ago. But it's very much a case of, the light starts to come on and it gets brighter and brighter, and the shots get better. And not all of the shots get better, but maybe just that one shot goes further, goes straighter, takes less effort, which is the key thing for me. And all of a sudden, they see they can do it. At that point in time, they may not do it all the time, but they see that what they could do is be very different to what they were doing before. And certainly effort level is a big thing. You know, I say to all of my clients now, if it was hard work, do you think I'd be doing it? You know, hitting the golf ball is a relatively simple thing to do. Managing a strategy around a golf course is quite different. But the task of hitting the golf ball shouldn't really be that complicated. So over the course of the time that we've then worked together, myself and Darren, be it in an individual setting, in a group setting, we've just reinforced the same ideas over and over and over again. The big changes, though, have been in attitude and behavior, mindset, realizing that, yeah, I can do this. Yes, I'm sometimes not going to do what I want to do, but that's okay, because I've got my next shot now and I can change that. And to listen to the way Darren is talking about his game now, we had a coaching session just a few days ago working on his short game. His ability to adapt to something new, I wouldn't now say is instant, but it's certainly within half a dozen to a dozen shots, he's making the connections himself and making progress. And more importantly, he's coming back in and telling me, well, I tried this the other day and this seemed to work. Is that okay? So he's now got the commitment to his own game to realize he's got the capacity to change it, because he's paying attention to what's happening as well. And I start out with all of my clients basically saying, I want you to become your coach. Because you know what? When you're there, I'm not always there. So it's no good playing a whole round of golf and then getting on the phone to me and saying, Tony, this happened, that happened, what do I do? We want to help build resilience, such resilience in people that when they're on the golf course, they've got the capacity to realize something's happening and that they can change it whilst they're actually out there. And I know that plays a big part of what we're doing within the YP2G program as well. It's about developing these skills because the coach isn't always there. So you've got to be able to realize what's happening and then make the necessary changes and adjustments. Now, they might not be the right adjustments initially, but it will take you somewhere else. And from that somewhere else, you make another judgment on what direction you need to go in now.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And you mentioned the point about we're not going to be there. And the other thing is we don't want to become a crutch.
No.
So we come from the Sir John Whitmore School of Coaching. You do, we coach. And in the first instance, the way I sort of explain this is in a business setting is there are two bar graphs. You know, you've come to me because you want some help and you're down here. But the way we operate is we don't want you to get to here. We actually come down to here and find out what on earth is going on in your world. That's why what we do in MindFit Golf and what we do in MindFit in a wider perspective and in, as Tony mentioned, Your Passport to Grow, YP2G with young people, is we come down to your level and we try and find out what's going on. Any idiot can ask the question, why? 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 It's too big to answer. And the only person that can answer it is you. So the purpose of a coach is we ask you, so what happened? Where did you hit the ball? Where did the ball go? Because these are now very focused questions which are relevant to how you're going to improve the game. I mean, Darren went from 24 to 14 because he changed something.
Mm.
And he's going to go from 14 to 13. And remember, this guy, this is proper handicap now. So he's consistently playing to his handicap. And for him to go from 14 to 13, he's got to show 3 good cards of that improvement. And then you got to go down to 13. And we're chiseling away those improvements. But the point is, you have to change something.
Mm.
And that's why it's so good when he says, oh, this happened. I tried this and this happened. You are now becoming the coach. Darren is becoming his own coach. And the good thing about that is he doesn't need to pay for coaching. And it's quite simple, really, because the better you become, the less beholden you are on other people. So now we just become your friend.
Mm.
And we're quite happy to talk to anybody to say, oh, that happened. And so what did you do next? Because we'll just we'll simply ask the questions, because you've now come up to here. You're probably better than we are, if in all truth comes to it, because that is your game now. It's not ours. So
I
you know
think,
your game far better than anybody else, and that's the key.
yeah, I think the key thing there as well, Neville, where we talk about not being a crutch, is people actually come back for coaching because they want to be coached, not because they have to be coached. You know,
And
I've
it
said to
becomes
my
more of a
client,
technical. It becomes more of a technical, because we've seen this. I've seen this when you do it. You start off with someone, and it's definitely a mindset, but then over time, it's real technical differences. And it might be, you need to think about the club. You go to your favorite club, the 7. Actually, that's a 6. That's a 6 all day long, but you don't use it often enough. So guess what? Go on the driving range and practice using a 6 iron, and then that'll become your favorite club. But
yeah.
it becomes, this is where proper coaching, if you like, the technical side of coaching comes in, and that's where most PGA coaches are trained. They're trained in that technical capability of helping you make those small adjustments to your game that may or may not improve what you do. But if they don't improve what you do, and you don't persevere with it, they won't improve what you do, by the way, if you don't persevere. But if they don't improve what you do, you blame the coach. But you're the person that's taking the instruction. And we're back to this, differentiation here. And this is why coaches get a bad name in many respects, because,
definitely.
Well, you told me to do this. I'm never going to go back to you again. And then that person moans about this particular coach, and then that coach gets a bad name. The reality is, it's you. And I hate to say this, and at this junction, because we need to move and close this on a happier note, but it is all down to you. We're only here to help you.
Yeah.
But the difference is, we come to your level to try and understand who you are, what your issues are, and get rid of all those little gremlins to start with. Because the reality of life is, for you to go and enjoy the game, for you to go and enjoy what you do in your business, you're the one that's accountable and responsible. And it's not a bad place to be, frankly. It's a really happy place to be. But remember, we're not perfect. So, finishing on a really good note for Christmas, I hope you enjoyed the Santa hats. We've thoroughly enjoyed talking about what we love, which is your improvement, particularly in golf and in business. Tony, any final thoughts for 2020?
Final thoughts for 2020. I think it's been fascinating, interesting. It's been an incredible year for many. If anybody's managed to maintain, and I know many people have, to maintain their own sanity throughout this year, then I take my hat off to you, because it's been challenging, full stop. We're fighting something that we can't see at the moment, and to everybody who's worked hard to keep the country going. You know, I was listening to the news this morning. They were talking about the clapping for carers. You know, the thing we did on a Thursday night at 8 o'clock. You know, we can't thank those people enough. Any key worker, be it a supermarket assistant who's kept the shelves stocked, to the carers who've kept people in their own homes and safe. You know, congratulations, because you've really kept us going. And I think the key thing is, as a nation, as many nations around the world, we've proved when we need to, we can batten down the hatches, and we can, you know, the majority of people can work together to make sure everybody is safe. So for me, it's been an incredibly emotional year, but it's been a year where I've learned a lot of new skills. I've spent time learning to drive tractors and heavy machinery around the golf course. So I've been challenged to do different things, which has been really interesting. I think what we're doing within MindFit is moving from strength to strength, and I can't wait for 2021 to happen, and the opportunities it's going to actually bring us, and look, and starting to film more of these and look at different topics as we kind of move forwards, really. I think I would really like to get to the point where we're doing this online and live, and we've got people throwing questions at us and doing online coaching. That would be fantastic. Be it golf or be it business, it doesn't really matter. Wherever we are, as we said earlier, wherever we are, we're always there and we're always listening. And the key thing is the attitudes and behaviours you take to the golf course are the same attitudes and behaviours you'll have at work and you'll have at home. How successful would you like to be? I think that's, for me, is the big thing. You know, people are powerful, and with the right attitude and behaviour, we can really make a big difference.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And here to that. I look forward to 2021 being the same way. And yes, we will do these live. I mean, as you know, Tony, we used to have a lot of fun at the London Golf Show and the Manchester Golf Show, where we had huge audiences around us, and there were lots of aha moments for people. The beautiful thing about this medium is that they can be forever, because you can stop this video and you can start it and you go back. What did they say again? Well, that didn't quite work for me. I better ask him a question. That's what we're here for. We're happy to answer any questions. We may not have the perfect answer, but we'll certainly give you a few suggestions for you to go and try. It's been an absolute delight for me to work with you again, Tony, on this short little program before Christmas. And we hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll see you in the new year. So, as ever, it's goodbye from him.
Goodbye.
And it's
Merry
goodbye
Christmas.
from me. Goodbye, and have a very Merry Christmas.